I started writing in the 9th grade. I was asked to join a creative writing class by my teacher. I didn't know anybody at school. I was new, so I joined the class for an easy A, and turned out I loved writing, so I've been doing it ever since. But only last year is the first time that I started trying to publish my work. I love to read when I find books that interest me. I read when somebody will recommend a book to me, but I'm not an avid reader. I've tried to get on the Goodreads program and set a goal for myself of 1 book a month, but that's turned out to be about half a book a month, because when I'm not reading, I'm writing or I'm at work. Unfortunately, even though I'm a writer, I'm just not a huge reader. When I'm not writing, I am a registered nurse in a recovery room in a small hospital in my community. I'm also a mother, I am a daughter, and I am a sister. The reason I decided to publish after 38 years is because I had time, and I was encouraged by my brother to start publishing my work, and I decided it was time to see what I could do with some of the talent that I had, and because not writing or not publishing had been gnawing at me for years and years, and I decided that it was time to get that off my chest. My family has been very supportive. They've been my biggest support through all of this. It's been expensive being self-published, going through marketing, going through publicity. Every time I'm going to make a move, I go to my family first and I tell them, what do you think about this? And they usually say, go ahead and do it. They listen to me whine and complain and say how I might not be anybody someday, and they say, well, you could be somebody someday. So my family has been a huge support, and my community is starting to learn who I am. I've been very quiet. I'm a total introvert, so when I'm home, I'm home, and when I'm at work, I'm at work, and there's not a whole lot of in between. But I've been getting out in my community. We've done a small business expo at the mall. I'll be doing a book signing this Saturday at the High Desert Oasis bookstore in Hesperia. And so many people come up to me at work now and ask if I have a book in my car, and ask me to sign for them, or if I'll sign a book for their mom or other people. So community has been very big, very supportive, and I just love being able to be a part of that. The main way I come up with stories to write is people watching. I do a lot of people watching, and or I overhear conversations. I'm very nosy, so if you're sitting next to me, I'm probably listening to your conversation. And I try and turn that into stories, or I create stories on my own just by watching people. Usually it's a country song that'll catalyst a thought or an idea that I've had in my head. I'll hear a country song, whether it be fast, slow, romantic, hateful, revengeful. People are losing their dogs and wives and husbands, and I can make a storyline out of it. So my first 2 books have been created from country music, but not following their storyline. And the next book that I'm writing was also inspired by a country song, but I'm not telling yet. Well, I have 2 books. My first book is When I Thought I Was Tough, which was the very first book I published through bookymon.com. And the second book I wrote is called Be Still, which I published through Iuniverse, an independent company. Of the 2, I would have to say Be Still is my favorite book. I love the characters, I love the storyline, I love that I was able to use a little bit more imagination and being able to come up with the life of a man in a coma, and being able to bring in a couple of different storylines and create 2 stories in one while still following the same idea throughout. Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, tiny little community called El Sereno. Made my way into El Monte for a couple of years, eventually into Claremont, and then I ended up in Hesperia, which is the high desert, and most people don't know it, but if you live in LA and you've traveled to Vegas, you've probably passed my hometown going by the 15 freeway. The reason I've put my community in my first two novels, actually the first novel is entirely set in my community, is because this is where I've set my roots. I realize I've spent the majority of my life in Los Angeles, but this is home to me, and I decided home was where I wanted my story to be based. And in my second novel, I just kind of made this sort of silent commitment to myself to say that all the books I write will somehow have some reference back to home. So Be Still has a reference back to home when she's driving away, and it also references the Barstow Skyline Drive-In Theater, which is still out here in Barstow, someplace me and my family frequent often during the summer. Writing career goal is to sell 250 books by August, 500 by December, and 1,000 by this time next year. I've done everything that I can to try and reach that goal. It's very hard now that I am on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and every other social media there is out there. I've discovered that there are thousands, if not a million, other writers in my same situation trying to achieve the exact same goals that I'm trying to achieve. There is a whole lot of work that goes into being self-published. There's a lot of work that goes into marketing and publicity, and I'm not a marketer and I'm not a publicist. So working to achieve my goals in such a tiny little community is difficult, and the next big community out there is Los Angeles, and that's Hollywood and all the actors and every other creative mind. It's really difficult to compete in that kind of avenue. So I'm staying close to home, looking for 250 hits by the end of August, and working my way up from there. People tell me that it's hard for a first-time writer to make those kind of goals and hit that kind of dream, but I'm going to keep to it. I'm sticking to it, and here's to 250 books by August. This is the day in my life of trying to get work done. Jason's working on music for my sweepstakes competition.
What just happened?
Video games are being played on the TV. Emma's sitting on the floor because the two guys are occupying the bed. And if that's not bad enough and trying to be creative, we've got somewhere down there the dog. Hi, my name is Tania Ramos, and I am an author of 2 books. My first book is called When I Thought I Was Tough, which was written in the fall of 2011. And most recently I published a book called Be Still, which is my biggest promotion of 2012. Be Still is the story of a man named Jack Silver who discovers that he is dying of Lou Gehrig's disease, and he decides that he's going to welcome death. And he welcomes death because he wants to be reunited with his wife and daughter on the other side if there is an afterlife, which he's not sure that he believes in just yet. When he becomes close to death, he decides all of a sudden he really needs to fix a relationship with his son, Travis. But time is running out, and you have to read the book to find out if he's able to fix that relationship. However, I will tell you, because it's not a spoiler alert, that Jack falls into a coma. He finds this beautiful, wonderful, trivial, sinister life there while he's in a coma. And he has to decide for himself. Does he want to choose to die, to have that possibility to reunite with his wife and daughter? Or does he want to continue to live on this life support to be able to give his son a chance to be able to make amends and reconciliate. But all of this he has to be able to figure out and decide while he's in a coma. Meanwhile, his son, who's very much alive, has to be able to come to terms on his own about what it is he wants to do and whether or not he can forgive his father for a life that he thinks is full of lies. This story has twists, it has turns. When you think something is, you'll find out that it isn't. You'll find out that this life in a coma isn't all that Jack thinks it is. And you'll find out that Travis might not be the total jerk that he's portrayed in the story. You find a little romance along the way. You find a little hate, a little torment, some guilt, remorse. Mostly, you find a story about a father and a son. A story about a son and a father. And how they learn how to make amends, or try to make amends, when one's in a coma.